my name is Vanessa Stoby. I am the first VP at OSSTF, District 16, and that's in York Region. And OSSTF stands for Secondary Teachers Federation. So anti-racism work in my local, so that would be D16, as I said, in York Region. And I think you asked me about challenges and I guess things that have moved ahead, successes. So the work is, continuous. I think that after 2020, with George Floyd and the things that happened after that, the work became even more important in York Region. And for us as secondary teachers, we need to deal with things in a proactive and reactive way. The first thing I tried to do with myself and other allies in my union was to see how we could actually change the very processes and procedures and how we do things. Because if you don't do that, then you're left with nothing to dictate how things can be dismantled. So I would think success and challenge, in the way I'm going to say this, comes together. One of the successes that I found in tackling or dismantling anti-Black racism within the union was that I had allyship in my local, and that they came together to help me look at the Constitution, and that's by the policies and procedures I mean, and figure out ways to bring about change. And the challenge, in the same way, is that how you do that upsets the balance and norms that people see in front of them. And the challenge was, how do you get, in our local and many other locals, how do you get your executive and then your members to pass any changes at an annual general meeting that happens in a constitution? That's a massive challenge. Given the fact that we were in COVID when I was doing this, even double hard, because for the fact that you would have to do this on Zoom, the meeting, and passing anything that you wanted changed. What I came up with were a few things. One, I felt that we needed in our Constitution an actual officer for our local that addressed anti-Black racism within the membership, that worked with our board, which is York Region District School Board. The success of building that was easy. The challenge of getting that put into the Constitution is where I wouldn't even say a challenge. It was trauma causing in some ways, because you have to really dig within yourself to ask people who think that racism does not exist within the union, you're all equal, to change policies and procedures that they feel is fine anyway, in a meeting that is on Zoom, and then get a vote of over 60%. So that was a huge challenge to get an officer, so an anti-Black racism officer, put in my Constitution. That's the first piece. It took 2 hours of questions fired my way by membership, which it should be, right, when you're bringing a change like that. The mandate was very steep. Myself and a few other allies decided that we wanted the anti-Black racism officer in our local, which is 3,500 members we represent, to really be, as I said, proactive and reactive to things, to build things, to really show that equity is infused in everything we do. That's number one. Number two was to bring about a Black caucus. So when you say challenge and success, a challenge was, would this pass? Because in our schools, we don't have as much representation as we want of Black identifying people. So would I be able to have a Black caucus of people from around York Region, to even happen in September and October? The success of that, which I do want to talk about, was that we had teachers who stepped forward and said, I want to be part of this Black caucus. The third piece to this was, and it is a challenge, how do we fund paying an anti-Black racism officer in our Constitution? So that's a piece of that we all need to do. We pay people to do this job for our members. That's still something being worked out, but I would like to thank the membership and my executive for really seeing that change is action. It's not words. I wanted to add on that we've definitely locally tried to work with, I want to say, individual members in how they can use resources, use new ways of putting things forward to students, because students are very diverse, and they need to hear it in different ways. So diversifying their curriculum, really working with, I want to say, not newer resources, but resources that aren't utilized as much. So I'm going to give you an example. We have teachers who do a lot of work with media. So making sure that they use media that represents a variety of voice. Sometimes teachers don't know what to use. So we've actually, as a union, started to look at that. Like, what can you use? So not just being there for members when something bad happens, being there to show them how to enlighten the youth that they face every day, right? And our members as teachers do this because they enjoy and they are passionate about their work. So as a union, that's something we started to do. A challenge is sometimes members don't want to listen to the educational resources we have out there. That's fair, right? Or why should I do this? Why should I change what I've been doing? I've been doing it for 10 years. It's worked as a success. In terms of, though, a success to that, working with educational resources for our members, we've seen that it's opened people's way of even like thinking. And as I said, I've used the word introspective. They themselves have started to become involved in this work. Had you be a person who is racialized, Black or Indigenous, or an ally, people have become allies, learned what it is to be an ally. And that's massive. So it started with just how they do their curriculum to now like who they are as a person. And I think that's something that's incredible in that piece, in that journey that I've been working with educational resources in our union. Yeah, I mean, the campaign by, the acronym is LCS, is going to be actually dynamic. It will definitely help promote anti-racism and anti-oppression. Can I add that to the point in our unions? I mean, Toronto York Region Labour Council, which LCS is part of, has many affiliates, many labor bodies to it. And in terms of that, I think by bringing this work to individual affiliates is going to help them first be introspective, start to reflect on their practices, their policies, and as you said, their constitution, and also to reflect on their internal behavior every day. Because oppression doesn't happen in a bubble, right? It's not just things, it's people. So humans have to make the change as we move forward, and we do that by having a conference like this, by pushing things forward, right? By being together and really challenging those norms. We need new norms, and we only do that by really looking inwardly first. I think member to member, you asked about that, like, will it help with member to member? Absolutely, because majority of us coming to the conference represent members. So as I'm the first VP in D16. I am put here by members. I'm elected. My job is to make sure that members feel that they are not just fairly represented, but justly represented. So yeah, this conference is going to help that piece. It's also going to help us stop being so reactive. You can't break down barriers and walls, and you can't undo hundreds of years of trauma if you don't actually like look to, as I said, breaking down the process, right? Changing the policies and the process and procedures, but replacing it with something that is infused with fairness and equity and has voice that makes people feel like they belong. So this conference is going to do, I think, be the start of all that. Have people to think about all those things. And that's been my journey for a long time, but more intensely for the last year and a half, as I said previously, in what we're doing in our organization. Elements of the campaign on anti-racism and how it can help my members in D16, OSSTF. Good question, hard question. I haven't fully thought about what I need at this moment, but as I go through the conference, I think I can start to understand more insightfully what I need. I'm really trying to think this through of what you could help. I mean, the first thing is to give ideas, right? I need to get ideas from others. As what a conference does. It gives you the ability to network, to communicate, and to introspectively communicate too. That's number one. I think the conference can help do. In terms of resources and so forth, sometimes, for example, I'm just going to say like SIU is doing something that is really dynamic and unique, and they have a resource that this conference can help bring together and spread more widely. In terms of support, I think for me as a local leader, again, elected, it's continuous support. We can't have a conference and then just leave it. You can't have this topic of anti-racism, oppression of all forms is every day. So I think we need something in which we continually come back as a group or even regions to help each other move forward, and as I said, to disrupt and dismantle in that order, right? So disrupt, dismantle, move forward. So we need each other to do that. I think another piece that I'd like help with is how to, and I don't know how to say this correctly, and I don't know how it's going to come off, but some local leaders, I don't want to say in my organization alone, across like Toronto and York region, feel that there's nothing wrong. There's really nothing wrong. So you'll hear statements sometimes like, racism doesn't exist here, I'm not racist, I like all this, or I agree with all this. But then implicitly in the workday, things happen that are, and I don't say microaggressions, are macroaggressions that happen to people who are racialized, Black, Indigenous, who are othered anyway. So what I would like help with is how to move local leaders like that forward. That's actually what I'd like, because I'd like to say it comes from the swelling of the bottom, but we need to look at who is elected at the top and appointed. We need both. We need the structure to be looking at it. And I think for me, I'd like to flip that structure. I don't always think that people at the top know the best. So maybe this conference can help me with that. How do I get my members to really start to disrupt and dismantle? Are there other ways I can help with the success of the campaign? Absolutely. I mean, I think by being involved with this, especially with LCS, Labor Community Services for the acronym clarification, I think pushing myself to make sure that I keep growing and learning and unlearning and relearning. Yes, absolutely. Also to make sure that my members are a part of things like this. So if this conference becomes, in a second year, or as I said, regionally maybe bigger, getting members to participate in it. Yeah, that's something I can do. Another piece of this is ensuring that the representation always stands strongly and boldly beside each other. And by that I mean I'm a Black queer woman. We need representation always standing beside each other, right? The person interviewing me is a racialized person. I need to stand beside that person at all moments. And I can help with that because I think that one voice leads to two, leads to three, leads to four, and that's where power starts, right? The power of many. That's where we come from. So I can definitely, Vanessa, help with that. Another piece of this is that I can do things like this incredible opportunity, right? If given an opportunity, I need to start to take it, because I said representation speaks very boldly. When you see it and hear it, you start to believe in it, and you start to feel safer, and you start to feel like you belong. So that's what I, Vanessa, can do.